Hello and welcome to the Microsoft Product Licensing Terms Update for June 2026. How's everyone doing today?
Good, thank you.
Going good.
Great. So quite a few updates this month. Microsoft broken the updates into two segments. So collection of updates on the 1st of June, and then on the 15th of June, I think there was a number of new additions into the mix. So I'll kick things off. I looked at all things Azure primarily this month. So the first up is Microsoft Azure AI Services. So what's changed? Microsoft has introduced a formal definition for Microsoft Azure AI Services, a cross-cutting definition, ensuring certain obligations apply consistently across all Azure services that incorporate AI. What it covers, things like customer compliance with technical documentation, limited access services rules, and Bing grounding requirements. So why this all matters, I guess you could say it's more of a tidying up move by Microsoft, but an important one for customers operating at scale or with compliance frameworks referencing Azure AI. Next Azure element that I looked at was the Foundry Models rename. So Azure Direct Models is now Foundry Models sold by Azure. The underlying service has not changed, right? So everything is the same as just the name. So again, the simplification, Microsoft's replaced the old model specific terms, a laundry list that vary by model with a single provision pointing customers to a documentation page. So what to watch out for? If you're relying on specific provider terms in a contract or compliance framework, check what's now on that documentation page. The old per provider terms are now gone. Again, sticking with all things Azure, Microsoft has sharpened what counts as a non-Microsoft product. Models not provided by Microsoft and not covered as Foundry models sold by Azure. The key addition, use of third-party models, is still subject to the Enterprise AI Services Code of Conduct, should I say. And why it matters, again, customers can't assume a third-party model sits outside the Code of Conduct framework. So if you're using anything not provided by Microsoft directly or as a Foundry model, the COC still applies to your organization. Foundry tools, again, what's changed here? Legacy references to Azure AI services and the product terms have been updated to Foundry tools. The old label was creating confusion, I guess you could say. Azure AI services was used in the legal terms, but it didn't match the actual service scope in product and go-to-market material. So the update aligns the two. Azure Hybrid Benefit. So slight subtle change update on Azure Hybrid Benefit. So Microsoft has clarified that only one of the Azure local SKUs qualifies for Azure Hybrid Benefit. So why this matters, AHB is one of the most common levers customers use to reduce their Windows Server and SQL Server licensing costs in Azure. So if a customer has been applying AHB across multiple Azure local SKUs, they may be overclaiming, which could create a risk of a Microsoft license audit or a license imbalance that could be costly. So action to take if you have customers or if you're a customer using AHB on Azure Local, confirm that they're applying it to the right SKU, worth flagging to your licensing compliance teams or software asset management teams if you have one internally, or if you're looking for some support on that front. Obviously, at version 1, we can have that conversation. And then finally, moving away from Azure, quite a few little ad hoc Azure updates. So just a short one on Teams participation notifications. So Microsoft Teams provides standard notifications required by law, including recording, transcription, and interaction with AI. So if you disable those notifications, Microsoft terms state you are responsible for ensuring that your contact center solution informs participants, should I say, in real time in accordance with applicable law. So Microsoft's obligation ends and yours effectively begins. So again, why this matters, this is a direct compliance transfer from Microsoft to the end customer. Any customer running a contact center on Teams who turns off default notifications needs an alternative notification mechanism in place and needs to own that legally. So that's about all the key updates that I covered off this month. I'll pass it over to you, Dan, if you want to go through what was of interest on your side.
Yeah, so first, Microsoft added the Microsoft 365 agent into the EU data bound scope. It might sound like a small admin update, but it's actually quite significant. What this means is that agent-based AI interactions are now explicitly included in the regional data commitments. And for customers, that removes any ambiguity. You now have a clear visibility on where the data sits, how it's processed, and whether it aligns with your regulatory obligations, especially in highly regulated environments. Second, as you'll see, structural cleanup, adding new core services, removing depreciated ones, and introducing unified definitions for Azure AI services. This is about simplifying what's becoming fragmented. Instead of dealing with multiple service-specific conditions, customers now operate under a single consistent compliance framework from AI. That shift reduces implementation risks, and importantly, it places greater responsibility on the customer to follow documentation requirements rather than relying on service-by-service nuances. Third thing that came across that was quite interesting is the Agent 365 was updated. The education enrollment subscription was added to the availability table, and there was a couple of product changes in there as well, making it available to schools and universities is going to be quite good. It also introduces formal license prerequisites and updated privacy notices. This is Microsoft drawing the line in the sand, just making it nice and clear. So not every customer or license tier can access these capabilities, and now that's explicitly documented. For SAM teams, this means that the key is eligibility. Dependencies and data handling expectations are no longer implied, they're defined. And then finally, the last one I came across that was quite interesting was Power Platforms added clarity around query data liability. This is a subtle but important shift with AI-driven queries, especially those involving external data sources. Microsoft being clear about where its responsibility ends and where yours as a client begins. In other words, the risk is now easier to understand. So that's what I came across.
Thanks, Dan. So lots of AI nuggets in there in the mix.
Lots and
William,
lots.
from your side, anything of interest?
Yeah, I had a couple. So the first one was for Dragon Copilot. So the tenant restriction has been removed. There had previously been ambiguity in the product terms that implied that a customer may not deploy multiple licenses in the same tenant, so more of a typo than ambiguity. So this term's now been removed to provide clarity that a customer may have multiple Dragon Copilot licenses in the same tenant, which just makes sense. The second one was GitHub Copilot. So a section of the product terms for GitHub offerings, this related to GitHub Copilot, they're no longer needed and have been removed. The section had originally been added to ensure terms parity with contracts provided to GitHub direct customers, so those buying from GitHub directly, even though it's a Microsoft company. So from the 5th of March, so it's been around for a couple of months, but only just been part of the notifications. GitHub now uses a global generative AI service term, irrespective of which channel it's purchased through, and that aligns with the broader Microsoft generative AI service terms. So just a bit of clarification there. Something they've come back to as well on Microsoft 365, and it was just really omitted from day one, is that Microsoft 365 Apps for Business and Microsoft Teams Essential have had their terms updated to state that customers may not provision more than 300 subscription licenses on their tenant. Now, Microsoft 365 Business Basic, Standard, and Premium have always had this threshold limit. Yeah, Apps for Business and Teams Essential were just omitted from that list of products. So it just means that it provides a clear demarcation between what is essentially a small business and what Microsoft would deem to be larger than a small business, and whereby they may need more advanced features and functionality included in the Microsoft 365 Enterprise Suites and Teams Enterprise subscriptions. So just saying that small businesses can't have more than 300 of those subscription licenses, that deems them as a small business, and that's why they can't have more than that. And the final one was, again, age-old product, Priva, or Priva. subject rights requests. So this is a very, very old product which never really caught on. It sort of got pulled into various other sort of purview and information rights protection type functionality within the broader security suites. So it's no longer available, and it's now been removed from the availability tables and from service specific terms. So Priva or Priva is no longer. And that's my updates.
Thanks guys. So because so ton of little ad hoc updates there. Nothing massive to write home about this month, but needless to say, some important elements included. So as always, if you have any questions or queries after the back of today's video, please feel free to reach out to us here at the Software Asset Management Practice at version 1. As always, we will publish the associated blog on all items discovered and discussed today in a little bit more detail. So until next month's product terms update, thanks so much for watching in, and thanks for the updates, guys.
Thank you.